Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of DevDrawer. Today we're going to be kind of continuing the Laravel project that we've been working on for the past, I believe, 2 weeks. In the last video we were able to create this page over here where it generates like a random number from a controller that's using another controller, just to kind of show you how to do those controllers. So if we switch back over to our page controller, you can see this contact page is using this contact function inside of our page controller, and it's just returning a random number that is being grabbed. It's being extended from the home controller, which is here, and we just created a random function to generate a random number. So last week I kind of showed you how to do this part of it. What I want to show you today is how you can kind of manipulate and showcase some of the values inside of your administration panel using some of the default functionality built into Laravel. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you like these videos, definitely hit that subscribe button. And I do a video every week, every Monday to be precise. So if you're watching this now, it could be one of my old videos. But if you like these kind of videos, definitely stay tuned because I have more coming. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to log in using the account that we set up the first week, I believe. So test.example.com with password, and then that logs us into the administration panel. And as you can see up here, the navigation changed. So what I wanted to do is, instead of saying dashboard you are logged in, I want to say something like welcome the username you are logged in. So in order to do that, there's a few different ways that we can do it. So let's go to our web.php, which is inside of our routes folder. And inside of here we have this /dashboard, and then it's calling the home controller index function. So if we go to our page controller, not page controller, home controller, where is that? Here. If we go to our home controller, we can see that it's returning what it needs to over here. So let's say if we wanted to display the name directly on that page, we can either do it from the controller, or we can come into our home.blade.php. As you can see here, it currently says you are logged in. So what I wanted to do is to actually display the logged in user's name. So we're going to come over here, and if you're logged into it, most likely you've registered for an account and you put this information in. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of echo it out. And then inside of our curly brackets, we're just going to add auth user as a function, and then we're just going to grab that name from there. And now if we go back over here, you can see that it now has DevDrawer you're logged in. So what I wanted to do is, let's say we want to change where it doesn't say you are logged in. We're going to come over here and we're going to remove this, and it's auto-saving, so that's the reason why it's showing this. But we're just I'm not going to have the translation on it, so just to make it a little bit easier for you guys to be able to do. But we're just going to have where it says no, this needs to be outside of the brackets now. There. So kind of the same way it just was, but we're just not using the translation anymore. So we're going to say this, and then we're going to put a comma after it, make this go down, and here. So we can also display underneath where it says DevDrawer appear. We can also maybe put like a profile link that can go to a profile page. But let me show you how to do this using a controller now. So in order to replicate the same thing inside of our controller to pass it along, because like I've told you in the previous video, you don't want to have a lot of HTML, or not HTML, because you already have HTML. You don't want to have a lot of coding, spaghetti code inside of your Laravel templates. You want to pass as little as possible. So we're also going to do an if statement to see if this is set before we actually push it, because you don't want to display this message if they haven't added in that inside their username. So in order to do that, we're going to come up to our HTTP controllers authentication controller. Nope, not inside of there. Inside of our controllers, we're going to open up home controller. And then inside of this is where we actually pass that variable. So I'm going to come over here to our home.blade, and I'm going to grab this. I'm just going to copy it over, and we're going to put it over here and say full name equals this. Now whenever the screen reloads over here, you can see that it's saying that class auth not found. So up here at the top, you need to type in use auth, and then that'll use that class, and you can see the error went away pretty quickly. So now on this side of it, we can, in the home blade, we can actually take, I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of this right now, and we're going to remove this part, and then we're just going to display name. So we haven't defined the name over here yet. We are getting it, but we're not passing it to this view. So then we're just going to set it up as an array, and let's say we called it name, so we're just going to create that variable. Let's go ahead and call it full name. And then inside of our home.blade, we'll call it full name over here as well. Alright, so, and then we got full name is undefined. Oh, that's because I should not put a $sign here. This is actually the key, not the variable. There we go. Alright, so now it's actually returning the full name that we are gathering here. So it's kind of the same way to do it, but the reason why I would like to do it here is so that we can add in some HTML or some an is set statement to check to see if this is actually set. If it's not, then we want to display a different message because we don't want it to have blank comma. So let's come in here and we're going to say is set, no, if is set, and then we're going to copy this, and if this is set, we want to run this code. Otherwise, we want to display a different message. So if it is set, we want to display it where it has a comma, and let's say like welcome to the admin. Okay, so if it's not set, we want to come in here and we're just going to change this up and remove this and just put welcome to the admin. So if the username is not set, it'll display, if the username is set, it'll display the username, comma, welcome to the admin. So if we go over here to our database and we're going to take out this name part, and if we make that blank, if it's not set, okay, we can't do an is set here. We need to check to see if it's blank or not. So let's undo this, and we're just going to do not equal to nothing. And then it'll display that alternative message. It can't do is set because technically in the database it is set. It's just coming back as a blank variable. So that's the reason why that wasn't working. So you can't use is set there because it's, you know, it's really there. It's just not, it's returning inside of an array. It's just not, it doesn't have anything inside of it. If that makes any sense. Okay, so we have it where it's displaying the message one way or the other. So let's put our name back in there as dev drawer. And then over here, refresh the screen, we have dev drawer, welcome to the admin. So we're able to change that username based on whether or not it's being set, and then we're passing it here, which simplifies our code over here. Instead of having to do this PHP if statement around this, we actually just pass that variable directly to it. Okay, so we have where it's displaying the username, but let's say I wanted to create something that displays a list of all of the users in the database. Currently, as you can see over here, we only have one user in the database, but let's go ahead and just create another one. Let's see, let's log out of here. We're going to click on register, and I'm going to type in dev drawer 2. Email is test at, let's do test2 since that one's already taken, at example.com, password, and now we hit register for that, and now we can see dev drawer true, welcome to the admin. So we have it where now we have 2 users inside of our database, and I want to display a list of users. So what I kind of want to get into in this tutorial is to show you how to use these controllers a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and let's get rid of the web for now. Let's get rid of our page controller since that's front facing. We're going to keep home and home controller. Let's get rid of this, and this. So right now I just want to kind of show you how to utilize a public function inside of a controller, and then I'm going to get to where we actually create a user controller that we can then copy all of those functions over to and then call it into this controller. So first thing we want to do is let's create a public function, and we're going to call this, let's say, get users. We're not going to pass anything to it because we're just going to be returning all users inside of it. And a way that we can connect to the database, we use the Laravel database connection code. So let's say we're going to declare a variable called users, and then it's going to be equal to db table, and I believe that table is called users. Let me verify that. Table users. So we want to get all of them. So we're going to do get, and then we're just going to close that out. So this will give us a list of all of the users in our table. We could also pass variables to it. So let's say if we only wanted to get a user with the ID of 1, we could come in here and say, let me bring this down so it actually makes a little bit more sense. So where in ID, and then we can pass an array. So if we wanted to get user 1 and 2, we could pass in 1, 2. But we're just going to do users 1 right now. So this function right here would return a list of users for us to pull from. So we can just come in here and say return users. And then inside of this index function, just because I'm going to display it inside of the index function, I'm going to call that function. So we're going to say users equals this get users. Because it's in the same function or the same class, we would use this. And then we're going to pass that variable as users. Again, I did the same thing. So we're going to pass the variable, but the key needs to be set that way, and this is users. So on our home.blade, we should be able to controller DBs. Okay, so we need to come up here and again use DB. Controller DB still not found. What's the function for that? Well, I was typing in the right words. I just don't know why. I guess my screen didn't refresh. But use DB is what you would do. So if you ever see that message where a controller can't be found, usually you can do the use method to be able to pull it the same way we did with the authentication. So we're using use DB, and obviously there's no errors here. So we want to display this. So I'm going to put it inside of this card that we have here. So let me just do a break tag, and then here we're going to put in users. Now it's not going to work the way we want it to because it's being displayed as a JSON object. So inside of this, we need to convert that to not use a JSON object because we want to actually pull it as an array. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say users equals JSON decode users, and then we're going to pass a true variable to make it an associative array so that we can use it. So right now, the way that I have it being displayed inside of our home, it's trying to display it as a string. Obviously, it's sending it over as an array now because we just updated it to decode the JSON string. So it's sending it over as an array. So inside of this, we actually need to do a for each loop. But before we do that, let me go ahead and comment this out. And I'm just going to do a print R just so you can see the variables that's coming across. Users. Yeah, I need to have this inside of, let's see, at PHP. I think it's in PHP. I don't usually do it this way. So yeah. So that's displaying that array the way that we want it to. So what we need to do here is actually put it inside of a for each loop. So we're going to do a for each. So we're going to do at for each. We want to do it here because I've already told you we shouldn't do it here. So let's not do it here. Let's go back to the controller, and we're going to return this users here, and let's do a for each over here. So for each users as user, and then let's create a table with it. So let's create users table, if I can type. So users table, and let's just create a HTML string, and then our for each, let's do in for each. And then up here we're going to create a table row. So we're going to do users table equals tr, and let's just display the user or the full name right now. So we're going to do user name, and that should give us the beginning of our table here. TD, and comment that out, and then let's close our user table with a ending table. And let's go ahead and do table class equals table, so it uses that bootstrap table class. And then we don't want to return users, we want to return users table. And then inside of our over here, we can then now do users table to display that information. Can't get a property object of name, so let's see what is it actually pulling for. Let's do echo pre, and then we're going to do print our users, and then we're going to echo this out too, just so we can see what it's getting, so we know what we need to pull. Let's comment this out for now. All right, so there is a name, user name. So I think in order to use this way, so let me go ahead and fix it. So we can see that we're doing users right now, and it's breaking it because I'm trying to grab it this way, because we're actually declaring it as an associative array whenever we are passing it from the JSON object to a put a period here so it doesn't clear it out. As you can see here, if we do it this way, it's because it's being passed as an associative array, but I want to use it the other way. So we're not going to pass it as an associative array. We're going to take this true out, and then that will allow us to pass it the way that we need to pass it. So let's go ahead and get rid of this, and we are passing it over here. Right here, if we do it with just the brackets, it's going to display it as a string, and it escapes the HTML. So that's why it's displaying it. It's displaying the actual HTML as a string rather than the HTML itself. So instead of doing it with the double curly brackets, we're going to do exclamation, 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 exclamation. Okay, so now we come back over here, we can see that the table is being built. So let's go ahead and pull all of the users instead of just this one. So we're going to, let's get rid of this and get everything. So now we're getting both of our users from the table itself inside of here, and then we're passing it on. And I also want to do, let's do table dash bordered, so that actually we can tell them apart. Let me add my break tag here. There we go. One more break tag. Okay, so now we're using this controller function to grab the information that we need. So let's see what other information is available to us. I'm going to do another, let's see, print our users, so I can see what it's gathering again. So we got name, email. Let's just do ID, name, and email. So let's create another TD. Actually, I'm just going to copy this over. And I did not close that out for some reason. Okay, so we're going to do ID, name, and then finally email. So let's change our variables. So email, and then ID here. And you can see it's gathering that information like it should be now. Okay, so this is how we would pull a function from inside of a controller. But let's say I want to create my own controller that has the functions for the users, which I would recommend because this is your home controller, which kind of contains like generic class functions. So I want to create my own user controller. So I'm going to come over here to our page controller, and I'm going to copy it and paste it, and then we're just going to rename it to users controller. So that way we have all of our information in one place. And then over here, let's change page controller to users controller, and then I'm going to copy this function for get users, and we're going to take it out of this class and put it inside of its own class. So we don't need this because we're not actually displaying the random number like we are on the page. So we don't need to copy any of this, but we do need to do that use db again. So let's do use db, and then I'm going to take this out because it's actually going to be the inverse. So on our home controller, we're going to scroll up to the top, and we are going to do use app HTTP controllers, and then we're going to change this to users controller. Now once we have our users controller being called inside of this page, public function get users, yes, okay, so it's still trying to call this, so we actually need to make it call the user controller itself. And to do that, we would come right here, right above where this is, and we're going to say user. We don't want to use users. Let's do because we're already using users. So let's say user controller equals new user controller. Nope, that's not what I want to do. User. How did I do this? Users controller, and then we're going to do this, and now we can call user controller get users, and then you refresh it over here, you can see that the same thing still works. So now we have the functionality that we need inside of our own users controller that's being called inside of this controller for the display of this page. Now there's a few other ways you can do it, kind of like we did on the page controller inside of our construct that we generated the random number using the home controller, where you just come up here and say home controller, then you declare it as a variable, and then you can use it the same way. But I didn't want to do it that way on this one because we don't necessarily need it to be displayed every time something inside of this controller is being used, so it doesn't need to be part of the construct. So we're just using it within the content itself. So right now it's gathering the users that we want, and again we can come down inside of our user controller and come over here, and we can write that other whereas trying to find it. Okay, wherein, so wherein ID, and then we can just pass 2, and then this only gather just the one. This needs to be an array. So let's come over here and pass that as an array. Nope, not the whole thing. I'm losing my mind today. There we go. So now it's only going to gather that second user that we just created, or the current user that we logged in as. So I'm going to log out as this user, and then we're going to log in as devdrawer. No, this, I think it's test@example.com because we only allow email, and then password, and it still displays just that one account because we have it hard-coded right here. So let's comment this out so we can reference it later. So right now we're able to display the user. So it's a pretty simple structure on how to create a controller and then use that controller within other controllers. Pretty much any functionality you create, I would say keep it together. So if you're doing something for the users, put it on your controller for the users. So whenever you need to go edit it 6 months from now, you remember where that code is, and you can go in there and edit it and make it display how you need it to display. So I think one last thing I want to show you as part of this is how we can reuse this functionality on a different page. So I don't want to have everything obviously displayed inside of this one page over here. I actually want to have it kind of go back and forth. So let's open up our web routes again. Where are you at? Web routes. And then inside of here, let's just do it on the test page. And I'm going to rename this page. We're going to say users. And then we're going to give it the name users and users. So this is going to create the users, this is going to be the route for the users page, which we're currently calling as admin test. So we're going to have to rename this page to be users.blade.php so that way we can use it, and then we're passing that middleware authentication so that you can't access this page without being a logged in user. So I'm going to come over here and just update some of the information. And let's go ahead and get rid of this. And we don't even need this right now just because we're not going to be passing any error messages to it. So inside of our controllers, let's see, what is it calling? So it's just returning the admin users view. So let's create a controller. So we have our controller here. So let's create a view the same way we're creating a view for our index here. We're going to create a view for our users on inside of this page. So let's come over here, and it's going to be function index, and we don't need to keep any of this there. So we can create that, and we're going to take our instead of returning a view, we're going to do the same thing that we're doing over here. Whenever it gets passed, we're going to be passing this controller rather than passing, let me get rid of this. We're going to be passing this controller instead of passing the view itself. That way we can control that code a little bit more without having to add anything inside of it. So this is going to be changed to users, and now let's see, what's an unexpected comma? Okay, that's because I have a comma right here. All right, there we go. All right, so right now the users, the test route is still not defined, and that's because we're using it in the navigation, so I'll get to that in just a moment. But I just want to make sure that our users controller index is being called the way that it needs to be. And it's not currently being called the way it needs to be because we can pass this as a this variable rather than having to declare that controller again. And then everything else should be good. But the view is going to change, and it's going to be admin.users. So that should pass the users table just like that. So now let's go in there and fix this issue. So we're going to open up our where's the app view at? Well, I guess I could just look at the message. It tells me where I need to go. So Laravel local, resources, views, layouts. So let's go over to, let me close some of this because it's confusing me. Views, layouts, app.blade. So we don't need to go to test anymore. We want it to actually go to our users. So and we also have that as a named route inside of the administration. So where is here? Test. Okay. So we're going to change this to users, and then we're going to pass the name users. So now we have our navigation at the top that goes to users. If we click on it, it goes to that users table, or the users page, and it's currently not displaying the page the way we want it to. So let's look at our users blade. That's because there is nothing here. So we can go to our user controller, and we are returning it as users table. So if you remember on this, we need to do curly bracket, exclamation, exclamation, paste our variable with the $, and then close that out with the exclamations. And now we have a users table on a users page that's using the functionality from the users controller rather than have it how we have it currently inside of our home controller. So if we go back to our dashboard, this part still works just because we're displaying it there. But I don't want to display it there anymore, so I'm just going to remove it out of the return, and then we're going to remove the code here. Put the bracket back. Okay, and then we also don't need to grab this user controller anymore here. Let's see what's going on here. Dashboard. Where's the dashboard at? Home. We're not displaying this. So there has to be something that I'm doing wrong here, so that's not right here. So we have our open, close. Oh, because I don't have the indif, I accidentally deleted it. Alright, there we go. Okay, so now we have where you log in, it says welcome to you, you click on this, you can go to the users page. So I think that's going to pretty much do it for this tutorial. I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit about the controllers. Let me do a quick recap just because I did kind of go through it pretty quick. So let me get rid of some of the stuff that we're not going to be using here. So let's get rid of the blades and we're just going to focus on the controllers. So inside of our home controller, I showed you how to create a function inside of your new controller called users controller. And using this function and the database class or the database method, we were able to grab the users, and then we wanted to be able to pass those users. So initially we had it where it was being passed inside of this index view for the home controller, which is the dashboard based on our routes. But what I wanted it to do is to display it on its own page. So inside of our blade templates, we created a users.blade.php. We changed up our web.php route for the users to point to the new controller that we created, and then inside of our controller we just essentially replicated what we did on the home controller, pulling from this function again. And instead of using where we had to pull the controller to be able to use it, we are just using this. So just a quick recap, this was a very quick tutorial, but the controllers and the methods and the calls between the controllers is pretty much the same for whatever functionality you want to create. This was just a very thin example of what you can create with it and how to do it. But once you kind of learn how to call different methods, you know, what kind of functionality you need to put in between each controller to make it be able to display what you want it to display, it gets a lot easier. But this was kind of like a crash course for this. So if you have any questions, leave a comment below. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up for me. If you dislike the video, you can go ahead and dislike it and tell me why you didn't like it so the next time I can fix it for you. But I think that's going to do it for this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, definitely do. I look forward to pushing out more videos for you. For right now, I have a few other videos that I have planned, and recently we were part of the Hurricane Zeta that came through the United States, so I was out of power for about a week, so that's why this video is kind of rushed, just because I didn't have any power to actually create a video. So next week I'll be getting back into some more Laravel stuff, but I also have a few other ideas that I want to probably create a video for, so I might do another Laravel tutorial video and then maybe break it up with another small video. I found a really cool way to start doing some CRUD applications with PHP. I went through a whole tutorial series on how to do that, but I found a better way to do it programmatically, where you don't have to write so much code for each update, create, read, and delete functionality. You just pass things to a function. So I think I'm going to create a video for that, and then I'm also going to create a video for maybe I was just playing around with some code to see if I can dynamically generate an API from a database, and I actually got it to work. So I think that's something cool. It's probably not very useful in the real world, but I think it's pretty cool to be able to kind of understand how to create that the API dynamically from the structure of your database. So that's going to be one of my upcoming videos, and then also we're going to be doing some WordPress stuff as well, so be on the lookout for that. And I know this was a very long outro. It's just I've been trying to play catch up with a few different things since I got my power back. But if you like the video, or I've already said that, so let's continue on. I think that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later.